They said her husband never showed his face, but every night someone slept beside her in the darkness. And one morning, Oluchi woke up with muddy footprints on the ceiling, walking upside down from one wall to the other. Her mother screamed when she saw them. Her father refused to enter the room. The village elders gathered in worried groups, whispering about spirits and curses. But Oluchi just stared at those impossible footprints and whispered, "He was here again." Her hands trembled as she touched the cold spots on her bed where something had been lying. The spots that never warmed no matter how long the sun shone through the window. This is the story of how it all began. How a stubborn girl's choice led her into a marriage that should never have happened. A marriage to something that was never human. In a quiet village surrounded by thick forests, where even hunters feared to go deep, there lived a beautiful girl named Oluchi. She was 17, with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that seemed to see more than they should. Oluchi was known throughout the village for two things: her extraordinary beauty that made men stumble over their words, and her stubborn heart that refused to bend for anyone. Many men came asking for her hand in marriage, bringing impressive bride prices and grand promises. Strong hunters who had killed leopards with their bare hands. Wealthy traders who owned multiple shops in the big city. Even the chief's son, who could have any girl he wanted, came with his father's blessing. But Oluchi rejected them all, one after the other, without hesitation. Her father pleaded. Her mother cried. The elders warned her that pride comes before destruction. But Oluchi simply smiled and said, "I will marry the man my heart chooses, not the man my eyes see or my parents want." One evening, as the sky turned orange and purple with the setting sun, Oluchi went alone to fetch water from the river. Her mother had warned her not to go so late when the boundary between day and night becomes thin and dangerous. But Oluchi, as stubborn as always, ignored the warning. The forest path was quiet, too quiet. No birds sang, no insects buzzed, just silence that felt heavy and watching. When she reached the river, she saw him, a tall man standing on the opposite bank. He was handsome in a way that seemed almost unnatural, too perfect to be real, dressed completely in white that somehow stayed clean despite the muddy riverbank, standing completely still as if he'd been frozen mid-step waiting for centuries. Their eyes met across the water. Oluchi felt something strange ripple through her body. Not fear, though perhaps it should have been. Not love, though it felt similar. Something deeper, older, more dangerous. Something that felt like recognition. "I have been waiting for you," the man said softly, his voice carrying across the water as if he was standing right beside her. Oluchi's throat went dry. She should have run. Every instinct screamed at her to drop her bucket and flee back to the village, but her feet wouldn't move. "Who are you?" she managed to ask, her voice barely above a whisper. He smiled slowly, and something about that smile made the temperature drop 10 degrees. The river between them seemed to shimmer strangely, and for just a moment, Oluchi could have sworn she saw through him, as if he were made of glass. "Your husband," he said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Then he was gone. Not walking away, not disappearing in a blur, simply gone, as if he'd never been there at all. Oluchi stood frozen for a long moment before grabbing her bucket and running home, water sloshing everywhere, her heart pounding so hard she thought it would break through her ribs. That night, Oluchi couldn't sleep. She kept seeing his face, hearing his voice, feeling that strange pull in her chest. By morning, something had changed inside her. Something had shifted, like a lock clicking into place. When her family woke, they found her sitting in the compound, staring at nothing, a strange smile on her face. "I have found the man I will marry," she announced. Her father stopped mid-step. "Where is he? Bring him to meet us properly." Oluchi said, "You will hear him," her voice distant, as if she was speaking from somewhere far away. Her mother grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. "Oluchi, what has happened to you? You're not making sense." but Oluchi just kept smiling that strange, dreamy smile. The villagers began to murmur when word spread. Something wasn't right with the girl. Something had happened at the river. The old women whispered about spirit possession. The men talked about curses. But Oluchi refused to listen to anyone, moving through the next 3 days in a trance-like state, preparing for a wedding to a groom nobody had seen. 3 days later, despite everyone's protests, the wedding was held. It felt wrong from the start. Drums echoed through the village, but they sounded hollow, almost mournful. Food was prepared and shared, but it tasted like ash in people's mouths. Traditional songs were sung, but the singers cracked with unease. But the groom was nowhere to be seen. Oluchi stood alone in her wedding wrapper, beautifully dressed, smiling at empty air. People whispered nervously. This was madness. This was a disgrace. The chief tried to stop the ceremony. There is no groom. This cannot proceed. But Oluchi spoke clearly, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. I accept him as my husband. Suddenly, a cold wind rushed through the compound, though every tree around them stood perfectly still. The ceremonial fire, which had been burning bright and high, dimmed to almost nothing. And then a voice spoke, deep, ancient, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. And I accept you. People screamed and scattered, but it was already too late. The marriage was sealed. After the wedding, Oluchi moved to a small hut that had been prepared for her near the forest edge. It had been abandoned for years because people said it was built on cursed ground, but Oluchi insisted that that was where she would live with her husband.